Entering the atmosphere in T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, back after a week off, joined by Doominal Crossing. How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. I fell off my ladder and I sprained my ankle, I think, and so that hurts a little bit right now, but that's not going to stop me from talking about some of my favorite final bosses of all time today. And in better news, though, since January, I've been on a big weight loss goal. I was the heaviest I'd ever been at like 240, and I weighed myself today, and for the first time in probably over a year or so, I am now sub 200, and
yeah.
I'm so happy to finally be here. My penultimate goal is to get down to about 180, so I still got about 20 more pounds to go, but like, yeah, we're already like 2/3 of the way there, and so super exciting to finally be back in here, you know, taking my health seriously. And then also, I'm not sure if you can see it in the frame, but I finally hung up my Metroid Prime Trilogy poster over there on the display. And we got some more boxes here that will be unboxed probably in a few months' time, because I still need to clear out some off-camera space for those guys. But yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Nice, yeah. I was like, well, first of all, congrats on the weight loss goal. That's awesome. I should probably start my own journey here. Now that I work from home, it's just like, oh my god, I feel like so out of shape. Yeah, I was waiting to do the show, and I'm like, where is everybody? And all of a sudden, Doom's like, oh, I fell off a ladder. Like, do you want to postpone the show? Oh, no, we're okay. I'll morph ball over. We could get that done. So yeah, we're gritting our teeth and we're back after a week off last week. So hopefully everybody enjoys this episode, because Doom is he's rolling up his sleeves to get it done. I had a couple of things that I wanted to talk about before we get started here. First and foremost is I am very excited, and I was watching this earlier before the show started. I'm very excited. We now have our second video guide up on Omega Metroid's YouTube page. It's a Super Metroid guide. It's put together by Dominique, one of our awesome editors, and this thing is incredible. It looks awesome. It's a video companion to the written guide that we have over on the website. I thought that it looked really, really awesome and just really professional. So anybody that's itching to play Super Metroid, go check that out. Maybe just like give it a whirl. Try playing it that way and collecting the items in the same sequence that we do. It's up there, and it's really cool to see that kind of realized and quicker than I thought it would be up there too. And for anybody that is I don't know, maybe busting out their Nintendo Switch and they're firing up their Game Boy Online through the Nintendo Switch Online app, and maybe you're just like, hey, I haven't played Metroid 2 in a long time. There's going to be a walkthrough by the end of this week up on the website. So written from start to finish. And this is a kind of a nice little moment for me, Doom, because this is the final 2D Metroid game that I needed to do. Other than that, I've done all 7 2D Metroid games, complete from start to finish, walkthroughs. It's taken a long time, but they're all done. And yeah, I wasn't going to do a walkthrough for Return of Samus, and you were like, no man, come on, you got to do that. And it's almost done, so that's gonna be up like within a week, maybe 10 days max time, so check that out.
Yeah, we've been cranking out walkthroughs like so hardcore this year, like even more than we usually do, so that's been really awesome. And then I think we got at least one more coming down the road before the end of the year, so yeah, that's going to be really exciting to see all that done.
Yeah, I felt a little bit inspired to do it.
Yeah, and again, like you said, shout out to Dominique. Like his editing and is so sleek and so cool. I honestly I kind of want to see if he can redo the intro, because I think his video editing abilities even outpace mine.
He's got that crazy French Canadian like energy going on for him. So like I wouldn't put anything past him. So shout out to you, my friend. And one thing that I wanted to talk about as well, just super super quickly, because I actually haven't had a chance to dive into it. But if you guys remember from earlier this year, we had an Inspired by Metroid episode come out on the Lost Crown, Prince of Persia, the Lost Crown. There's free DLC. I think it's free. There's DLC anyways that just came out for the Lost Crown. So I am really pumped to, as soon as I'm done with Metroid 2, to jump back into that and start exploring that world. And as a little other announcement, Inspired by Metroid returns either next week or the week after. So everybody be excited for that. We have one of my favorite Metroidvanias of all time. I probably even say like it's up there, and like if you ask me for my top 20 video games ever, this game would probably be up there in that top 20 conversation. So really looking forward to that. So everybody just keep that on deck, because Inspired by Metroid is back after a long layoff.
I hope you all feel inspired to watch it.
Yeah, so go check that out. So what we're doing this week is we're revisiting an old topic that we originally did on episode number 34 of this podcast, and we decided that, you know what, it's literally been 200 episodes. So we're on episode 235 as we speak. So you're like, it's been 200 episodes, give or take. That's about 4 years. We're going to revisit this topic. And this is a topic pre-Doom Crossing on the podcast. So we decided to bring it back. I am 100% sure that my ranking is completely different, but we are going in and we are ranking, definitive style, every final boss in the Metroid series. These episodes are just light, fun. I always have a good time with them. Our listeners always have a good time with them. A lot of discussion. So we wanted to bring it back and give Doom a little bit of a chance to weigh in, because I don't know. Were you listening to the show back? I mean, that was a long time ago. That was over 4 years ago.
I've been listening since, I don't know if it was day one, but probably like day 3 or so. So
Wow. Good on
so
you.
I've been with it from the beginning.
I got to challenge any of our hardcore listeners out there. I would love to know what I said my favorite boss battle rankings were back then, because I guarantee you they are totally different now. Totally different. I wouldn't even begin to fathom what my rankings would have been back then. So we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna put this list together. We should lay down a few rules of engagement before we get going. Number one, we are going to be doing this definitive style. So what that means is we're going to be ranking the bosses in chronological order. So we'll start off with Mother Brain from Nestroid and the Queen Metroid from Samus Return of Samus, and we'll rank one of those above the other. And then we'll go to Super Metroid and we'll rank that boss either first, second, third. We'll go to Metroid Prime. We'll rank that boss first, second, third, fourth, etc., until we literally get every single game done. So that's how we're going to be doing this. And the other thing that Doom and I were chatting about before we started here, and I think that this is what we decided on. If everyone hates this, it's my decision, so tweet at me and let me know. But what we're going to be doing is the final boss only. So, for example, in Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, you fight Emperor Ing, and then you fight Dark Samus. So in our list, we are only going to be ranking Dark Samus, because that is the final boss that you actually fight. Now, there's a pretty good case, particularly in Metroid Fusion, to say like, well, maybe we should combine a few of them, but I don't know. That's just how we're going to do it, and we'll see how this goes.
Like he said, you can yell at Andy. This was not my decision. And honestly, he probably likes it. He loves being the heel. So
I do.
Feel free to.
I really do. I really enjoy it. So if everyone thinks this sucks, I'll be like, who's not here this week? Oh, Dak, it's his idea. Yeah, great. So yeah. So
I did have some fun stuff to talk about Emperor Ing, but that's okay. I can wait to do that during our inevitable Echoes anniversary coverage. So
and there will be a ton of that. And by the way, we'll do a little epilogue at the end where maybe we'll talk about Emperor Ing or like the SAX or some of those bosses that are kind of the final boss but not really the final boss. And maybe we'll talk about like AM2R. Maybe we'll talk about Metroid Prime Pinball at the end, because that game has a final boss. So yeah, let's I guess without further ado, any other rules of engagement that we should go over before we just kind of get rocking and rolling?
We pretty much covered it right there. Yeah, let's let's just get right into where it all began on the Famicom Disk System.
The Famicom Disk System. Gorgeous looking console, by the way. All
Really
right.
nice.
Well, and by the way, we'll reveal our own personal rankings as soon as we're done. But I am fond of Mother Brain and Nestroid. I have to admit. Now, it's not challenging for like the top spot or anything, but it's in about the top half of my list. I have it ranked at number 7 out of what do we say there were 13. So I feel like that's a pretty like decently high spot to be in. I think that Mother Brain is challenging, which is a quality that I like about a final boss. I think that the atmosphere is really cool. Again, quality about a final boss that I value a lot. It's an intense fight. You've got stuff going on everywhere. It's I will admit there's a little bit of nostalgia bias as well, just because like it's the iconic sprite work of Mother Brain and breaking the glass tube, and it's kind of set that tradition. But I am pretty fond of this fight. I think it's a really quality fight. I mean, obviously there's going to be others that surpass it, but I have, I think that it's, I think it holds up. Let's just put it that way. There are some NES games where, like even like in Nestroid, like I think that the Ridley fight is pretty lame. The Kraid fight, not the best. But I think that the Mother Brain fight is pretty fun. So I mean, obviously right now it's 1 of 1, so it's going to be number 1. But I would I would campaign for this one a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't pre-ranked these on my end. Although I do have like a general idea of where I'd put these, but yeah, I really like this fight. It's got, fantastic atmosphere. The music is some of my favorite in the game. You know me, I'm always when the Metroid music becomes disgusting and organic, like sign me up. And this music is all about that. And so I love that. It's less of a boss fight and more like you versus the environment, but the environment is a really, really good obstacle and a really tough obstacle at that feels satisfying to overcome.
Yeah.
And for what it is, I think it does its job. I'd say exceptionally well, actually. So yeah, I have a lot of good things to say about it.
Yeah, and I know like that this doesn't count towards the actual boss fight itself, but I also just love the build up to it, the fighting the Metroid, stuff like that. I think that it's just I really like Torian in Nestroid. I think it's the game's best area. And this fight is kind of the coup de grace about it. So I mean, Mother Brain from Nestroid is it's number 1 right now. It's 1 of 1. Let's continue. Let's go over to a game that I've been playing a lot of lately, and that is Metroid 2: Return of Samus. I went first on Mother Brain, Doom. I am curious to hear what your thoughts about Queen Metroid are in this game.
Well, you were number 1 for a few seconds at least, but immediately going to get dethroned by Queen Metroid, which will probably also get dethroned again by our next fight. But yeah, I really like the Queen Metroid quite a bit. Again, for a game that's surprisingly simple, like there's so much. I love the amount of hidden tech in this. Like obviously there, you got your missile damage, but then you also have I'd say now famous in the Metroid community rolling into the morph ball and damaging her on the inside with the bombs, which is we've now seen in two official releases since then. And I love that there's no hint to this. It's just kind of something you kind of discover, or maybe you heard your friend on the playground say something and you're like, nah, no way, and then you tried it and it's like, oh way. And so I love all about that. The music is absolutely killer here. Dare I say one of my favorite final boss themes in the series. I love the Queen Metroid theme so much. Absolutely criminal that it didn't return in Samus Returns, but I digress.
That is criminal, isn't it? Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, the sprite I mean, all of Metroid 2's sprite work is incredible. And the Queen Metroid is no exception to that. And I love the sound design too. It almost sounds like you're facing this giant titan, but it almost feels like, despite the odds being against you, it almost feels like it's on the defensive. It's, crying in pain. It's scared. It's kind of like, it's literally backed into a corner almost. And yeah, I love the whole dynamics of that fight.
Yeah, I really like it too. I was like neck and neck with this one and Mother Brain. I ended up ranking Mother Brain just higher, but if you want to put Queen Metroid above, I have no problem with that because I really like this fight too. And you know what the coolest thing about this? Like, I agree with everything you said, actually. So, and the music is, oh man, that music. Actually, the music for like Area 8 or Phase 9 in that game and in general is like incredibly underrated. It sounds awesome. But yeah, the thing that I really like about the Queen Metroid fight is that if you fight it a certain way, and basically this is the only way that I fight it, it makes me feel smart and brave. And what I mean by that is like, so I obviously go out of my way to collect all the missile expansions, right? And by far, the most efficient way to fight the Queen Metroid is like when it's coming at you with its jaws and it's about to bite you, you shoot it with a missile, you stun it, and then you unload, like fire at will, like bam, 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 bam. And it makes me feel like a badass for standing my ground, but it also like makes me feel clever for knowing how to do this. And like you said, if you don't have a lot of missiles, provided you can take the damage, you can go in and you can bomb the Queen Metroid too. So it's pretty cool that there's different ways in order to defeat this enemy. So I have a real soft spot for the Queen Metroid. I think it's a great fight. The build up to it again is just phenomenal, and I think the environment that you fight it, even though yes it's like a concealed room, I think that like just the overall like the genetics lab with all the test tubes and stuff like that, just it's a really good presentation considering it's on the Game Boy from 30 plus years ago. So yeah, I had this ranked over at number 8, but like I say, it was just behind Nestroid. So I have no problem ranking this above Mother Brain on our definitive list right now.
Yeah, I'd be fine either way. I'm a fan of both of these fights. But like I said, Queen is only going to be occupying that number 1 spot for a few moments in time.
It is, yeah. I mean, let's just go to Super Metroid, and this is probably going to surprise nobody, but I mean, Mother Brain is going to be a contender for the top spot. I don't know if Mother Brain is going to walk away with the top spot, but it's going to be fighting till the end for that top spot. I mean, like, this fight has everything, man. Like, it's a recreation of the Torian fight, which is already awesome. It's even more intense. It's even more, the sprite work is grotesque. Like, that part is just really, really fun. But of course, it's a second part that really kind of gets you going. And the second part kind of combines the best of everything. It's got like, it's a challenging fight especially if you're not coming in, fully loaded. It's got really, really awesome story elements that play in game, which I feel like is really important. Because like, some games it's like you're fighting a boss and like this cutscene takes place and it kind of takes you out of it a little bit. This one I feel like is so natural. It's the way that it is implemented is just so, it's beautifully done. And I mean, one of the most iconic scenes in the series, right? Like when the baby Metroid, who is now the Super Metroid, flies in and saves you. He saves your butt. Just an incredible ending. The hyper beam, it just, man, like everything about this, I really feel like just works. You really, the thing about this fight that I feel like just really puts it over the top is like, after the scene with the baby Metroid, if you don't just like hate Mother Brain and just want to absolutely destroy that thing, like you might need to check your pulse, because like it's such an emotional moment in the game and heartbreaking, especially with the context of like some of the latter games that take place after Super Metroid, like release wise. It's just it's an amazing fight, and I for one also love the design of Mother Brain, like the dinosaur version of Mother Brain, who I've heard people call it like a chicken. I've heard people call it like a bunch of other stuff. I just think it looks like this really creepy, grotesque monster, and I really love that. So yeah, it's certainly in a league above what we've seen so far. And this will be challenging for the top overall spot. I don't think we're spoiling much saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as for my opinions of the design, I definitely lean more it looks ridiculous, but I think the sprite work really works in Super Metroid. I'm just not a fan of like the 3D render and like other M and stuff where it's like it's a literal interpretation. I don't think it quite works in that context, but in the sprite work or even like the hand-drawn art for Super Metroid, I think it looks awesome.
Yeah.
And then yeah, pretty much echoing exactly what you said. Like it really, I feel like it's especially those story moments that really elevate this boss battle. Because like even apart from that, it's a good battle, but it's those story elements and that personal connection you feel to the fight that really makes it stand out. And like, there's bosses where you're like, oh, they're badass or they're challenging or they have these cool moves, but you don't have that personal hatred. Like, I want to shoot you in the head. This is one of the few boss fights. Maybe one of. I'm not going to say one of the only. We do have some Ridley fights where I feel that way, but yeah, this is definitely one of the top contenders where like you want to put Mother Brain down, and you get to do that, and it's satisfying when you do. But at what cost?
A great cost. I remember Allison was playing my co-host on the Zelda-cast. I made her play Super Metroid, and she messaged me at like 11 o'clock one night, angry, all caps. She's like, "Why did you tell me about the baby Metroid?" It's like, you must be fighting Mother Brain. I get it. Yeah, I mean, like it's such a great fight. I do love the way that you just kind of feel helpless too for a while, like, and you're just like, oh my god, like, am I about to? It's got everything. So it's one of my favorite fights in the entire series. They came out on the same day, so let's do Metroid Fusion first, because I feel like Metroid Fusion sort of ties into Super Metroid as well, in the way that the final boss is laid out. I have to admit, like, I'm not the biggest fan of the Omega Metroid fight, and to be honest with you, I'm not really the biggest fan of the SAX fight either. In the game, I love the SAX as a concept, but when it comes time to actually fighting, I don't know that that fight was everything maybe that you're billing it up to be. It's a pretty basic fight, and then it's like a random monster at the end. But I do like the concept behind the Omega Metroid fight. The only problem is it's missing what Super Metroid had, where there's not really like an actual fight to be had. I mean, yes there is, but not really. Like, it's really tough to lose that fight. It's more about the story element, about the SAX coming back in and eliminating that Omega Metroid, or not eliminating the Omega Metroid, but giving you the tools to eliminate the Omega Metroid. I really like it as a story concept, but as an actual fight itself, I think it's just kind of okay. I do love the sprite work of the Omega Metroid, though. I will say that the sprite looks amazing. I mean, obviously we're partial to Omega Metroids here over at OmegaMetroid.com, but I think that the fight itself is pretty basic. I mean, you just walk forth, shoot, walk back, wait for the Omega Metroid to claw, and rinse and repeat. I do think it's pretty sweet when you finally do get the Ice Beam, though, after finally not having it all game. That's pretty cool. The Omega Suit's pretty cool. The fight itself is just and it's almost unfair, because I mean, like, it's not going for a big kind of epic fight like some of these other fights might be. It's almost more of a set piece, but I think that there's enough of a divide between SAX and Omega Metroid to rank Omega Metroid. But even so, even if we were including SAX, I still wouldn't be ranking it too highly. I have a 10 on my list of 13.
Yeah, I'm putting at the bottom of my current list that we're writing so far. And I think you hit the nail on the head at the very end, because obviously it's not going for that final boss, but even in the context, even though we're not including SAX, even if we were including that, the SAX fight is pretty underwhelming on top of that, and so it doesn't really help that. And I think that kind of seals its fate, unfortunately. Like you said, the sprite work, awesome. The the story implications, not as effective as Super Metroid, but definitely like in that realm. I like what they're going with there. I actually kind of miss when Metroid games just kind of had all the action playing it out. Like I don't get me wrong, I love the cutscenes in Dread 2, especially the one for the final boss we'll be talking about in a bit. But yeah, I do kind of miss all of that just kind of happening in real time, like, and kind of mixing in with the gameplay. It definitely gives a different type of feel to it. But
I agree.
But yeah, the actual fight, regardless whether or not you include the SAX, it doesn't have the sauce.
No, not really. And I feel bad kind of putting it at the bottom, but I think that's where it has to go. So really quickly, number 1 is Mother Brain from Super Metroid. Number 2 is Queen Metroid from Metroid 2. Number 3, Mother Brain from Nestroid. And number 4, the Omega Metroid from Metroid Fusion. Let's talk about Metroid Prime. What a fight. What a fight. I first and foremost, we got to start this off with like, I love when you walk into that room and you see Metroid Prime. It looks like this scary face, and all of a sudden you hear like, and the music starts building up, and then when that music gets going, it's just like, oh god, I'm ready. Like, you just want to run through a wall. So I think that fight is awesome.
I mean, it does run through a wall, to be fair.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, you literally do. I think that the first part is really, really fun. I really like the switching between beams, and I think that you just got like this big fight feel that the music and the atmosphere kind of contributes to. I think that the second portion is also pretty fun as well. I really like the core design of Metroid Prime. Maybe not as much as the like Metroid, like the shell of Metroid Prime, but I think that that's still really, really fun. The music really puts it over the top for me, though. I have to admit, like the music just really elevates this fight. Although it would still be a great fight on its own, but yeah, that really puts it over the top for me. I do like that it makes you use kind of all of your tool set that you've acquired throughout the game. I really appreciate that in a game, and you're switching between your beams, your visors. I think it does a good job of that, and it also rewards you as well in the second portion. If you've been collecting power bombs, you can just zap away the Metroids, and I like a good little hyper mode as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. I have this one ranked pretty highly. I do have to say, I don't think that I'd put it above Mother Brain, but it's not far behind for me.
Yeah, I think this is just below Mother Brain on the current list. No disagreements so far. I'm pretty much all in. My favorite part of that introductory cutscene, actually, so you see the shell and then it slowly opens up its spider legs. Oh, that just gets me every single time. I get goosebumps every time I see that. So yeah, I absolutely love it. You mentioned the music. Probably two of my all-time favorite Metroid tracks right here. Both boss themes are just insanely good. I love all the synth patches that Yamamoto uses, especially the Invaders patch, which is it's present in the title theme. It's that little gross, squishy organic patch. It's used throughout the game, including the intro, and it's present here as well. I absolutely love it. And then, of course, you have, that main Metroid theme appropriately coming in during the second phase, during the core fight, kind of playing as, the main melody, when the chorus builds up again, which I think is just such a really, really clever throwback as well. Because, I mean, it's literally the essence of Metroid. And so, like, what better way to use the official theme for that? And so, yeah, that's awesome. I do remember we were doing a Prime boss ranking during Prime's 20th anniversary, which hard to believe that was almost 2 years ago now. But yeah, I did dog a little bit on the second phase of the fight. Having replayed Metroid Prime a lot now via the remaster and a lot of the writing I did for the guide that I put up, my criticisms still stand. I do think I was a bit harsh on it, though. I do still think, while I do think there could have been more in that second phase, I still think for what it is, it's really effective with that hyper mode. And I guess, at least in my playthroughs, the randomness of the pools, it wasn't as drastic as I had remembered. My Meta Ridley criticisms have not changed at all. That is still a BS fight. I do not like it. But yeah, the second phase of the Prime fight, though, I think is still really fun. And yeah, pretty much. I also, probably one of my favorite boss attacks in general is when he charges at you and you have to morph ball under in the little slots to dodge it.
It's so good.
Especially in the final one where we'll start mixing it up and he'll do it like 2-3 times in a row and you have to be like on your toes to get ready for that. Oh, I love it.
Makes me really want a Queen Metroid fight in like Metroid Prime. I know we had a 3D one in Other M, but it makes me want like a Prime version of that. Yeah, I think that this boss fight is just like, it's just like a really great way to cap off like Samus's first 3D adventure. It's grand, it's epic, it's challenging, but not too challenging. You use all your, like, it's kind of got everything that you want from a final boss. So yeah, I ranked it at number 4 on my list, which I have to admit, I was like, I can't believe it's only number 4. But right now on our list anyways, it's ranked at number 2 of 5. So let's keep going. In the next game, actually, that's coming out. Actually, what came out first? Zero Mission or Metroid Prime 2?
Zero Mission.
Zero Mission came out first, yeah. Well, let's do Zero Mission then. we'll talk about the Ridley robot. And I want to lead off with, I really love the concept of Ridley robot. I remember I was so stoked when I first played Zero Mission way back in the day. I got it the day it came out. And I was like, I beat Mother Brain, and I was like, okay, that was a great remake. Like, that was really fun. And then I was like, wow, there's this whole other extra portion of the game. This is awesome. Like, I can't believe it. I saw the cutscene, I was like, oh man, I think Meta Ridley is in this game. So I love the concept of Ridley Robot. However, I think that this is one of the worst final boss battles in in this series. The sprite work is great, but I think that, like, the boss itself is just, like, so pathetically easy and not challenging and not really that fun. It's a Kraid fight, but without the charm of Kraid and without the action of Kraid, and like the spires shooting out and the things that are being thrown in the air. Yes, you have some missiles that you can destroy. Yes, you have all his attacks, but like at this point in the game, you're fully powered. So I mean, like, you could just screw attack at the top corner, and that takes care of anything he throws at you. I mean, if you're playing on standard mode, this is just a pathetic fight. You're probably done within like 10 super missiles of the fight. So that I think is kind of lame. The environment itself, I think, is kind. I mean, it's just a room. You know, it's kind of, there's nothing grandiose there. I don't even remember what the music is off the top of my head.
It's a robotic version of Ridley's thing. I actually enjoy the music for what it is, but I mean,
Okay.
obviously we have very different opinions on the Zero Mission soundtrack.
Well, we do, and like, I'm not inferring it's bad. It didn't stick out to me as like as like something that really made it go like, wow. Yeah, I'm just not very fond of this boss fight. I have to admit. If it were I don't know, if it were me, I might have just included like a legit Meta Ridley boss fight instead, or maybe tried to shuffle some things around and the Chozo test is the final. I don't know, something, but I appreciate it for being in the game, but this one is not my favorite. I would rank it dead last on what we have right now.
I don't hate it. I don't think I hate it as much as you, but I certainly don't love it either. I mean, we already talked about this during our Zero Mission final boss rank. I think the biggest failure more than anything is that this isn't even the hardest part of the sequence. The hardest part, I'd argue, is those two gray pirates right before you get into the
Easily.
spaceship. They're way more difficult than this fight.
Easily.
And
like,
so
those are challenging.
Yeah, and so like if this isn't the hardest fight on the planet, like, okay, fine, sure, but like you got to do something a little bit more than that, and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And so I'm not gonna put it last. I'll put it above the Omega Metroid on Fusion, but it's certainly not going above Mother Brain NES on my list.
Oh, okay. I can do that. So I'm keeping track of what we have right now.
I'm fine. If you want to put it dead last, like, go for it. I don't mind. That's just my own personal list. I'm certainly I'm certainly not going to fight for it.
Okay, I'll take you up on that. I can't put it above Omega Metroid. I think, like, at least Omega Metroid has some cool stuff going for it. It's got, it's got the story implications. It's got the SAX. It's got an Omega Metroid, which is pretty cool in and of itself. So I do have to put Robot Ridley last. So it's 6 of 6 right now. But maybe it won't stay there for very long. We'll see. Okay, next up, we got Dark Samus from Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Doom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is definitely one of those rankings that like drastically changes whether or not we include Emperor Ing. If Emperor Ing was included, this whole sequence would be like fighting for top spot for me personally. But without Emperor Ing, I think it's still a strong contender. Not going to take the top spot though. An absolutely sick boss fight though. I mean, you have the my favorite escape theme of all time by Kenji Yamamoto just blaring in your ears with those alarms going off as you're literally like, I think like I've said this on the podcast before, but like when I think of like Dark Samus to Samus, I think of like Agent Smith to Neo. That's kind of the dynamic I get between the two, and I really especially feel it in this. Like I get, that final fight in Matrix Revolutions almost, where it's like it's literally like one. I'm quoting a completely different movie now, but one shall stand, one shall fall, Transformers style. That's been on my mind because I just saw the new movie. But anyways, but yeah, I love
Good
the
analogy.
dynamic of the fight. I love the last part of the cutscene where they're just staring at each other and they just slowly draw their guns up to each other. Perfection. I love it. The final form of Dark Samus is creepy. It's disgusting, and it also evokes a lot of the design elements from the core form of Metroid Prime, which I think is such a cool connection. And then the fight itself, while there's not a lot going on, I feel like there's enough to where it's like really engaging. Like, you're damaging Dark Samus, and then you're absorbing the Phazon, blasting it back. Like, it's a really fun, like, give and take to that fight.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly satisfying. Where I'm putting this in my list, though, for what we have right now, this is tough. I'm looking at the Queen Metroid from Metroid 2. I don't know if I want to put it above or below that. That's the line I'm looking at right now. Queen Metroid, Metroid 2. I'm gonna go above. I'm gonna go above on that. I'm gonna put Dark Samus above that.
I think
that feels right to
I
me.
think I agree with you, but I have them ranked pretty closely on my list too. I would say even without the Emperor Ring, I really like this Dark Samus fight. I guess the only kind of thing that might hold it back is like it's probably, as far as a boss battle goes, it's probably the weakest of the three like Dark Samus fights in the game. However, I think the atmosphere, the vibe kind of definitely makes up for that. I think that the escape sequence being on and ticking away while you're fighting really adds to this boss battle. It adds a level of urgency. It adds a level of tension. And I think that goes a long way. I love, man, the Dark Samus like skull just looks so awesome. You're right. That scene where they raise their arm cannons at each other is so great. And I really do like the and like it's challenging but easy once you know it. But like when you scoop up the little Phazon bits in order to blast them back at Dark Samus, I think that's a pretty clever little I don't know, a little gameplay mechanic there that they implemented. So I like this fight a lot. I think that the setting is definitely the meat and potatoes of it rather than the actual fight itself. But I still think that it's really strong. And the music is great, as you point out as well. I personally had it over at number 5 on my list, which I think is pretty strong. Like 5 out of 13. I think that's pretty strong. I had it above Queen Metroid, so I think I would put Dark Samus above Queen Metroid myself.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me because I feel like in terms of a raw boss fight, I think the Queen Metroid does it better, but I feel like there's a little bit more creativity in that Echoes fight, just with the blasting back the Phazon mechanic, which I just think is really cool. You got, I mean, both bosses have excellent music, but yeah, I think just that atmosphere, the tension, and just that overall sensation I get with that fight just barely goes above Queen Metroid for me.
So really quickly, we're going to do this every couple games that we rank. Let's take a quick stab at our list to see where things are sitting. At number 1, we have got Mother Brain from Super Metroid. At number 2, Metroid Prime from Metroid Prime. Number 3, Dark Samus from Metroid Prime 2. Number 4, Queen Metroid from Return of Samus. Number 5, Mother Brain from Nestroid. Number 6, Omega Metroid from Metroid Fusion. Number 7, Ridley Robot from Metroid Zero Mission. Let's go ahead, and the next game that we got on the docket here is Metroid Prime Hunters.
It's fine.
It's fine. So I fought Goria not that long ago, and we're going to include both phases of Goria here. So like the true phase and the one that you fight in, God, what's it? Oblique?
Yeah,
Oubliette, whatever it's called. I'm not high on this fight. However, I'm not high on it because I think that controlling it is just like a real pain in the butt. But I think controls in Metroid Prime Hunters are a pain in the butt in general. So like, maybe I'm not separating as much as I should be. I ranked this one pretty low. I ranked it at number 12. I think that the first phase can be fun. I like that you kind of need to switch your beams in order to to damage Goria in its current form. I do think that him just like completely changing color to like whatever beam that you need to hit him with is a little bit cheesy, a little bit on the nose. Maybe they could have, and I know Metroid Prime does that, but I mean, like, his whole body turns from, like, red to blue to, whereas Metroid Prime kind of had those different shades, but, like, mostly look the same. So that's a little bit cheesy. He does have some cool attacks, I will say that, but I don't know. I don't think that this is one of the better boss fights in the game. And then the second phase is just like a miserable game of hide and seek. Like, you're never going to lose that phase, and it takes way longer. Imagine that the Super Metroid fight, after you've got the Hyper Beam, you have to go looking all around Torian for Mother Brain and fight down Mother Brain, and Mother Brain is constantly moving. It's not great. It lasts a lot longer than it probably should. It's not like you're going to lose, and it's just like, okay, get me out of here. I ranked it. I ranked it pretty low. I ranked it at number 12, so second last.
As the Metroid Prime Hunters defender in this chat, this is last place on my list so far.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not. I don't think it's a bad fight, but it's up against some very, very stiff competition, as we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like in terms of music, I've already talked about this. I think the Hunter soundtrack is criminally underrated, but I'm not a fan of the actual Hunter themes. And the first phase is basically those Hunter themes, basically switching between those motifs for every single color that it changes. And so definitely not a fan of that music. The second one, it's a new arrangement of the Metroid Prime core fight, which cool, but not exactly original. But I mean, that I'll also count that as a plus. And then the fights themselves, like, they're engaging, but just kind of boring in my opinion. The second one, I don't think the second one's as bad as you made it out to be. But then again, it's been a couple of years since I played Hunters, but again, it's really just, you get the Omega cannon, and then you just kind of, you just shoot at it basically, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's more of a threat in multiplayer where, like, if you shoot it wrong, you can actually one hit kill yourself. That's not really a threat in the single player campaign with all your E-tanks. And so yeah, it's fine, but not fine enough to scoop it out of last place, unfortunately.
I think, like, unfortunately, my opinion would be Metroid Prime Hunters, I think, just struggles with, like, traditional boss battles, like when you fight the what the hell? I was gonna say a word that I should not say. Snitches? They're not snitches. What the hell is the ball called?
Slench.
That's
it.
Slench. I was gonna say something else. And the centipede towers. I don't know what the hell they're called, but like
the
those
credipids.
Those fights, I feel like are tough. Like, and I don't mean tough as in they're hard. I just mean they're tough to get through. I think where Metroid Prime Hunters more so excels is those random encounters with the bounty hunters that you have to be aiming properly, and there's not really a strategy. You just fight them. And I think that Gory is kind of proof of that. So yeah, Gory is going to last place, unfortunately, on the list. Now, okay, Doom, let me ask you a question. You decide this next one, because our next boss battle is Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. And if you wanted to, I would be willing to combine Aurora Unit 313 and Dark Samus, because you fight them instantaneously one after the other. It's not really any different from fighting Metroid Prime Phase 1 and Phase 2. I felt like there was a divide between fighting Emperor Ing and fighting Dark Samus there, but if you want, we could combine these. You tell me.
I think... Yeah, that's... I feel like you could, because like you said, it's more of a phase. There's no, like, even Emperor Ing, like, you have to move a couple of rooms down before you do the Dark Samus fight. Whereas this, it's like the fight starts immediately after the cutscene where you defeat Dark Samus. There's no additional stuff in between, even if it's something really tiny. So I don't know. I could kind of go either way. I'm not sure if including Dark Samus would influence my decision all that much.
I don't think it would influence mine. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Let's just do Aurora Unit 313.
Okay.
Let's just call it a day. Do that. I like the story implications of this fight. It's a stolen Aurora from the Valhalla. I think that's really cool. I'm I wonder though if I just want to flip this around. Like I think it would have been more impactful to fight Aurora first and then Dark Samus after. It seems like kind of a weird boss for the finale of the Metroid Prime trilogy. And I know that technically Dark Samus is controlling the Aurora unit, but I wonder if I wouldn't have just flipped him. I don't know. I don't have this one ranked super highly, and there's nothing wrong with this boss battle. Like it's fine. It's very similar to fighting Quadraxis when its head is floating around. But if that was the whole battle, with some elements of the Dark Samus fight as well. So I don't feel like there's anything particularly wrong with it. But I also like I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily like adore the fight either. Like it's a fine final boss fight. The setting's awesome. Phase is incredible. Yeah, I just don't feel that strongly about it. I have it ranked at number 9 on my list. I think it's a fine fight, but it's just like it's a weird choice for the final boss battle for the trilogy.
Yeah, we talked about this during the Prime 3 definitive ranking, and I think AU 313 is a good boss battle, but a bad final boss. I really think it misses, it misses the mark that I'm looking for in a final boss. Like, even if it doesn't have like that extremely personal connection that Mother Brain does, it should feel like, what the game is leading up to. And AU 313, well, obviously, after you explore the Valhalla, you learn that it's, pretty significant to the plot. It doesn't feel like it's the last, like it should be Dark Samus. That is the main antagonist. And like you said, it's Dark Samus by technicality, but it's not Dark Samus. Like, I want to put my gun right in Dark Samus's face. I don't care about this, corrupted brain thing. And then also I think I think the second phase is just looks absolutely goofy and ridiculous. Like when it's spinning around like a little top, I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever.
Well, I don't mind. I don't mind the way it looks, but
well, I like the design. I like the design of it. I think the Aurora units look cool. I think it looks goofy just spinning like a little top on the ground like that when it does that one attack.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the final fight, and I talked about this as well during the definitive ranking. I think it would have been way more effective if on phase you got an actual escape sequence after that fight. And then somewhere along the lines you get kind of like a Prime 2 Dark Samus thing, but instead this time Dark Samus is flanked by some of the Metroid Prime forms that because you see those husks right before you enter the arena. What if that was like a foreshadowing thing, and it's like Dark Samus and like actual Metroid Prime forms like actually teaming up to stop you from escaping the planet? And that's like that to me like feels like a trilogy finale right there that everything is leading up to.
Yeah, I think that would have been cooler. It's just a weird choice for like even in the context of like in Metroid Prime 3, like you don't really talk about the missing Aurora unit like that much. Like yes, you do talk about it, but I think they undersell the importance, the gravitas to it. And I think that another thing that kind of hurts this fight, or at least it does for me, is when you and going way back but like when you had that Metroid Prime Wii Shop promotion channel or whatever, they kind of inferred that the Aurora unit was the precursor to Mother Brain. Like it was very, very like on the nose in inference. So I almost just think too, if you were going to have this as the final boss battle, I just go all out and have it like in a Torian or something. Like you know what I mean? Like have it very clearly echo the Mother Brain boss battles, and this it kind of wasn't that. So I don't know. It's just a weird battle. I'm looking at our list right now. I mean, I'd still put it above Goria. I'd put it above the Robot Ridley fight. And I'd probably put it above Omega Metroid too.
I have underneath Mother Brain for me. That's my location.
I think that's a good place for it.
Mother Brain NES specific. Obviously it's below Super Metroid. But.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to our next game here, and we are going to the year of our Lord 2010 and talking about Metroid Other M. And, the first thing that you have to ask yourself when you're doing the final boss ranking in Metroid Other M is what is the final boss in Metroid Other M? Because you could make an argument for, like, a few. You could make an argument that it's the Queen Metroid, which you might not be wrong, because like that's kind of the final like legit boss battle that you face before the credits roll. You could make the argument that it's MB, which isn't really a boss battle, but like you still take control of Samus for a second. You shoot MB, which is, by the way, just like absolutely criminal that we didn't get like a Samus versus MB fight. I can't believe that. But what we decided is that the final boss in our ranking for Metroid Other M is Phantoon. Of course, you go back to the bottle ship after your mission is complete. You're looking for a memento. You go and you find Adam's helmet, and you are confronted with a really cool looking version of a Super Metroid boss and realized in 3D, Phantoon. And you know what? I mean, say what you will about Other M, and we say a lot about it, but I think that this fight is awesome. It's got the music. Phantoon looks cool. The setting is cool. You're on the bottle ship, and Phantoon's literally floating in space like a big giant apparition that's trying to kill you. The little ghosts are everywhere. I think this is a really strong fight, actually, and it's too bad that it's kind of after the credits. I wonder how many players never got to experience this fight. I have it ranked like decently high, actually. I have it at number 6 on my list, and I think that's like a, you know, Other M is at its best when like it just lets you play the game, and you don't unfortunately get a lot of opportunity to just play the game in that game, really up until you get like your screw attack, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna play, collect the items. That's when the game clicks. But when you have all the story stuff, that's when, you know, depending on who you are, the game maybe drags a little bit for you. So this is pretty much exactly what I wanted out of Other M. You go in, you look around the ship, you fight this awesome boss battle, and it's worth mentioning too, actually, after it, you have an awesome escape sequence. I really like the escape sequence here as well. But yeah, I have a lot of time for this boss fight.
I believe this is the first example I used on our favorite things from our least favorite Metroid games episode. Because yeah, this boss fight just kicks so much more ass than it has any right to. In a game that, you know, feels like it's dragging you down. This is, I would say, probably like the highest point, and I'd say quite a high point. This is a phenomenal boss fight. I'm not sure if it would make my top 10, but definitely I would put it in my top 20 boss fights in the series. The only thing that it's missing in terms of final boss is, you know, because unlike the Queen Metroid, where, you know, it does have the story implications, this one just is, you know, you don't really quite get that personal connection. You're not really fighting for it. It's more just kind of a cool fan service Easter egg, but in a game that drags you down as much as it does, having this really cool fan service moment actually does feel pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And so I do still get a little bit of that. I think I'm going to put this between Mother Brain NES and Queen Metroid. I think that's where it's going for me.
Is that where you want to put it on our official definitive ranking? I'd be fine with that, by the way. I'd be fine with that.
I wouldn't be like fighting over it. Where do you have it?
I have it at number 6, so it's just above Mother Brain, NES, and Queen Metroid. Metroid 2. But like those three to me are like very close. Like depending on the day, they could be interchangeable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to put it up there, I won't fight it. I think it's totally valid. I think Queen Metroid just has I like that atmosphere a little bit more, and just kind of the story implications of that. But yeah, the fight itself is so killer. And I mean, obviously one of our favorite parts in Other M is, you know, the finishing moves that Samus has, and she has some incredible ones for this fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's split the difference then, and let's put Phantoon in the number 5 spot. So right in between, Queen Metroid is above it, Mother Brain NES is below it.
Yeah, that's where I put it on my list. Yeah, it's between Mother Brain and Queen Metroid. Yeah, so.
Okay. Well, you know what's next. Fast forward a couple years, 2015, Metroid Prime Federation Force. And so technically speaking, the final boss battle here is Master Brain. And Master Brain is like this pathetically easy... It's basically just like a big gimmick that you destroy a couple panels on, and the boss is defeated. So like it doesn't even feel right to call it a final boss. Should we just call him Audible? Let's just talk about Samus. Let's just call him. I know I'm breaking my own rules here, but let's just do it. I mean, it doesn't matter, because if it was Master Brain, that's going in last, and if it's Samus, spoilers, that's going in last too. This,
Is there a level lower than last that we can put Samus at?
you know, I actually replayed this boss battle like not that long ago, and without context, the boss battle is like okay, like actually like blasting this big ball into these electrical panels that electrocute the big ball. Okay, it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. But man, you add in that context, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, why did the space pirates not just chop Samus's head off if they captured her, right? Like, that'll probably get me flagged for something bad, but I mean, it's true, right? Like, in the context of the story, it makes no sense. Samus as a big ball is so underwhelming as an enemy. At this point, I mean, we've already fought the SAX, we've already fought Dark Samus multiple times. Like, what did you think that you were doing yourself a favor by making that comparison? The answer is no. I mean, forget about the music. Like, there's no good music that's playing. What happens
What
after?
music?
I mean, pretty much like, and what happens after is like one of the most insane things you've ever seen. Like, Samus has some rubble fall on her, and the Federation's like, okay, let's just leave her. Let's get out of here. What?
Oh no, and pepperoni. Anyways, let's go.
It's a terrible story setup. It's a terrible and by the way, there's a lot of time that you have to wait, just like while Samus is crawling around on the roof, for her to drop down for you to actually engage in the battles. Like, you're just standing around. So it is a mediocre at best fight, and that's probably being generous. And with the context on top of it, like, this to me is like, so the gap between, what's number one right now? Mother Brain from Super Metroid. The gap in quality between Mother Brain from Super Metroid and Goria is the same gap in quality between Goria and Samus from Federation Force. Like, it's low.
Yeah. It is truly, I think it's the worst moment in this series, which, I mean, following up from Other M, which before you could argue had some of, if not the worst moments of this, like, to me, this easily eclipses it. It's one of those things where, like, I say this every time, but there's so many things about this game that just baffles me that they put in, and this is by far, like, this is the easily, like, the top of that. I have several questions that I don't want to know the answers to.
You know what the worst thing about this fight is? This is not even the best boss fight in Metroid Prime Federation Force, where you fight a giant ball. There is a better boss fight in this very game where you fight a big ball. And that one's actually pretty fun. And this one is just, oof.
Yeah, I don't know what else I could say. I mean, it's truly awful. Even if you haven't played the game, which I'm guessing most of you haven't, I mean, it's just as bad as it sounds, and it's even worse when you play it. It is truly, like, one of the worst sins that humanity has ever produced.
It's a tough look for sure. It's not the best. It's definitely not the best. However, our next game, well, that might be one of the best, actually. And I'm talking about Samus Returns. So right off the bat, some people out there take umbrage with Proteus Ridley showing up at the end of Metroid 2, and I get it. Okay, I get it, but this fight is awesome. I don't care what you say. This fight has everything going for it. One, the setting, absolutely incredible. SR 388 at sunset. You've got these, like, this green sky in the background, vortexes going off, like, just it looks incredible. Number two, it's got amazing music that changes as you progress with the fight, and just like, it's pulsating and it's incredible. Number three, the fight itself owns. Like, the fight is awesome. You fight Proteus Ridley in 3 distinct phases, and in my personal favorite, number 4, that I think it has going for it, I love that the baby Metroid is an active participant in this fight. It makes you love that little baby Metroid more than you already do. It adds emotional heft to Super Metroid's ending, which is a game that came out like 20 years before this game. Like, that's impressive. It retroactively made Super Metroid's ending better by having the baby Metroid be a participant in this fight. The cutscenes are awesome. The actual battle itself is like really, really fun. Ridley is tough, but not impossible. It's challenging. There's lots of cool moves that he has. And I like that the Proteus design, even if they don't really follow up on it, it kind of implies that connection that I think we're all looking for between the Prime and the 2D series. I really think that this fight has like everything going for it. The only knock against this fight, which I don't agree with, but I can listen to the argument, is that it feels a little bit random coming up at the end of the game. But I mean, if that's the worst thing that we're talking about here, like, that's a pretty darn good fight. So I have this one ranked really highly.
So I am on the side that does prefer the traditional Metroid 2 ending. I think the thing that I love so much about Metroid 2 in general is how unique it feels compared to other Metroid games. And like, typically, whether it's an escape sequence or a final boss, you have this big bombastic finisher followed up by like, a cutscene or maybe an epilogue or maybe a quick roll to credits. That's typically how a Metroid game ends. But Metroid 2, it's this very, almost kind of relaxing but somber ending where, you finally defeat the Queen Metroid. You walk off into the sunset with the baby Metroid, and it's really calm and peaceful, but also much more reflective than I typically get from a Metroid game. And really no other Metroid games have done that. And so I am disappointed that, Samus Returns being the remake kind of did make it more of, a traditional ending. But holy crap, what a fight this is, man. Easily one of, if someone told me this is their favorite Ridley fight, I'd be like, yep, that's totally valid. This fight is amazing.
Yeah.
I think I put it just below the Corruption Shaft fight for me. But yeah, it's one of the best fights in the series. It's so good. Like you said, I love how the music evolves and it represents different eras of Ridley too. So you have that kind of traditional Super Metroid Ridley theme in the beginning, and then it turns into the Prime Ridley theme, and then and it still plays the Prime theme, the kind of the Prime motifs in the third phase, but it slows the tempo down to that of Neo Ridley from Fusion in the third phase. So I love like all these little references to like both the past and the inevitable future of Ridley. I think that's really clever. I love the interactivity with the baby Metroid and how in that third phase it's basically, the team up. I don't watch a lot of wrestling, but that feels like, when the guy you're watching is down, he's about to get beaten by the heel, and then like some like superstar, their theme starts playing, and they come out and they just clothesline it. That feels like what the baby Metroid does. It's so awesome.
This moment is so awesome, man. Like, Ridley's literally about to murk you. Like, you are dead to rights, and he's about to do, which is actually pretty cool in and of itself. And one of our staff writers at Griffin was giving me grief a couple months ago. He's like, "You didn't answer my question. Would Samus have defeated Ridley without the baby Metroid's help?" I mean, she probably would have, but I mean, like, this moment where the baby Metroid comes in and just like zaps, this tiny little creature just zaps away like Ridley's beak. Like, I just cheer when I see it. Like, it's so awesome. It's the same as like when the baby Metroid comes in and zaps Mother Brain, but without the tragic ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so and I've said this before, while I don't like the specific game, and I think it takes away a big important moment that I really love in Metroid 2, as a boss fight, oh my god, it is incredible. It's like, I really don't have any critiques of the fight itself. It really is just a perfect fight from start to finish, I think.
Sorry,
yeah?
really quickly, because I've seen, and I'm not trying to tell you that you're wrong, but like my interpretation of the Metroid 2 ending is so you defeat the Queen Metroid and you go to the egg, and the baby Metroid hatches, and it hatches, and you just kind of leave. Like, I do, like, I've seen a lot of people kind of echo what you said about how it's this quiet, kind of reflective moment. I just don't get that vibe. Like, the music that plays is really nice, but I think Samus Returns does a lot more to kind of sell that connection and sell that reflectiveness, particularly when Samus is about to blast it away and then chooses not to. I think that's the greatest moment in the series.
I love that cutscene in Samus Returns.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
But
yeah, I
but
this
yeah,
is an awesome fight, man.
yeah, in terms of my ranking, I do have this below, just below Queen Metroid. I have it between Phantoon and Queen Metroid. But
Wow.
if you do want to put it higher, I'm not against that at all because it is a phenomenal fight.
Do you know where this ranked on my list?
Number 2.
Number 1.
Number 1, really above Mother Brain. Wow.
I put it above Mother Brain. I love this fight. This fight is awesome. Like and I'm not saying it's my favorite fight in the Metroid. I probably wouldn't even say it's my favorite Ridley fight in the series, but like as a final boss, I think it has everything that you're looking for. Like and you get the happy ending, which I think is great. Yeah, I think that this fight is like incredible. I really enjoy this fight, and I put it above Mother Brain. I mean, obviously we won't rank it on number 1 on our list right here. Where did you say you put it again?
So I put it between Phantoon and Queen Metroid. If we're gonna compromise, I'm looking. I think between Dark Samus and Metroid Prime could be fair.
Yeah, I mean that is probably fair, but oh man, that seems even too low for me. Although Metroid Prime is also an awesome fight, so I mean really whatever. But yeah, and again, if you ask me tomorrow, I might say that Mother Brain is my favorite fight, or I might say that the next fight that we're going to talk about is my favorite fight. But like, I love this fight, man. I think it's incredible, and you know what, that is a consistent strength of Samus Returns is it has awesome bosses in the game. Mercury Steam, if nothing else, has really nailed their boss fights, as we will talk about on the next entry here. But really quickly before we do that, maybe we should just recap our list so far for everybody. So number 1, actually let's go in reverse order. So number 12 is Samus from Metroid Prime Federation Force. Number 11 is Goria from Metroid Prime Hunters. Number 10, Robot Ridley from Zero Mission. Number 9, Omega Metroid from Metroid Fusion. Number 8, Aurora Unit 313. Number 7 is Nestroid's version of Mother Brain. Number 6, Phantoon from Other M. Number 5, Queen Metroid from Metroid 2. Number 4 is Dark Samus from Metroid Prime 2. Number 3, Proteus Ridley, rip, from Samus Returns. Number 2, Metroid Prime from Metroid Prime. And number 1, Mother Brain from not from Samus Returns, from Super Metroid. There's only one left to talk about. The newest final boss still on this list, and that is, of course, Ravenbeak. And like I was saying with Proteus Ridley, this should come as no surprise, but this fight is awesome.
I'll just cut to the chase. This is my number 1 pick right here. I love this boss fight. I think really the only other real content, Mother Brain, obviously, but if we had included Emperor Ing in the conversation, I feel like that would be the only contender. But without that, it really is. Ravenbeak is just, all 3 phases are just awesome. There's so many attacks, there's so many mix-ups. His design is awesome. The cutscenes are awesome, whether it's him ripping his Sephiroth wings off, or whether it's Samus coming back at the finale in her full Metroid suit for the comeback kill. The actual fight itself insane. I love how Ravenbeak has unique abilities, but he also has like other abilities that Samus has collected, since the very first Metroid. He can Shine Spark. He has the Beam Burst Aeon ability from Samus Returns. He has, and then he also has a bunch of like unique stuff as well, and they're all fun to like interact and engage with and counter. My God, when you figure out how to dodge and weave through his attacks and actually counter and do shot backs, it is so satisfying. Like you're always on your feet. It's especially fun in Dread mode, being able to like do a flawless run on Ravenbeak. It is truly an experience unlike anything other. The only setback, and I won't go into it because I've talked about it a gajillion times in this podcast, it's the music. But the music aside,
I think that the music is actually fine in the Ravenbeak. The Ravenbeak fight is one of the themes in Metroid Dread that I think is pretty good, actually.
I think it's a fine theme on its own, but it doesn't feel like Metroid music. That's the problem. It does nothing about it. It doesn't feel like Metroid music. It doesn't even feel like a final boss theme. Again, I've gone into these critiques a gajillion times where I'm not going to go into it again, but that is like a small pimple on a beautiful, beautiful work of art. That is the Ravenbeak fight, and so it's going at the top for me. If it's not at the top for you, though, I am willing to compromise.
It's not at the top. I have to admit, though, it was when I was making this list of the first draft, and I kind of thought about it a little bit more, and like it's tough. Like the top three fights, I feel like, are so awesome in their own ways that you could say, like, this is your favorite Metroid fight, like your favorite final boss fight, and I'd be like, yeah, man, it's awesome. But I'd say the same thing about Mother Brain. I'd say the same thing about Proteus. I'd say the same thing about Metroid Prime. Everything you said, I think I agree with, and I'm partial to this fight too, because this was one of the, like, when I was first started the website and I was writing guides and stuff, and I was like, okay, I want to have guides on the website. I think that's something that is lacking for Metroid. This was the first game that I mean, I did Super Metroid first, but like this was kind of the big one that I really did. So I was very partial to Ravenbeak as a boss. I agree with everything you said. Like the fight, the mechanics are incredible. I don't need to regurgitate that. What I'm actually going to stick up for in this fight is something that I think everybody kind of dumps on. I really like the story implications of this fight too, and like I like the idea that Samus is fighting against. And like Ravenbeak says, like I think he calls her his daughter as a way to taunt her, and I think a lot of people misinterpret that. I like the idea that like Samus's DNA is shared with Ravenbeak because he helped her become the warrior that she is today. I like that. I think it kind of adds a little bit of sizzle to this fight, and this fight didn't really even need sizzle added to it. So I think that's a really cool. I think it's a really cool touch actually, and the end of this fight. Man, it's awesome. Like when you transform and get the Metroid suit going, I mean that's just good stuff. Like that is incredible. I had it at number 3, so I would be. You know what? I mean I'd be willing to cut. Let's put it number 2. Let's put it above Metroid Prime. Maybe below Mother Brain, and maybe Mother Brain being a number 1 is kind of as it should be. You know, I think that's a generally accepted, revered fight, and I think everybody's probably okay with that.
I think that's a fair placement, absolutely.
I'm really excited to see kind of what Metroid say. You know what? Actually, I would really love it for to happen is to have a Metroid Fusion remake and see what that final boss could look like in there. Because I mean, we've seen what an Omega Metroid fight looks like in Samus Returns. That could be cool, and getting another crack at the SAX could also be really spectacular as well. Yeah, so I think that's a good spot for it. Just an awesome fight, and it really, like, I feel like from basically Aurora Unit or like Omega Metroid for Metroid Fusion down, like most of the fights are really, really good in their own way. A couple stinkers, but for the whole, I mean, like, there's a lot of really good fights on this list. So really quickly, let's recap our final list here. Coming in at dead last is Samus from Metroid Prime Federation Force. Then Goria, Metroid Prime Hunter. Number 11, Robot Ridley. Number 10, Omega Metroid from Metroid Fusion. Number 9, Aurora Unit 313. Number 8, Mother Brain from Nestroid. Number 7, Svantoon from Other M. Number 6, sorry, is Queen Metroid from Metroid 2. Number 5, Dark Samus. Number 4, Proteus Ridley. Number 3, Metroid Prime. Number 2, Ravenbeak. And number 1, you just can't beat the classics, Mother Brain from Super Metroid.
Yeah, do we want to go over our individual lists too, just for fun? Because I still
sure.
Yeah, you want to go first? I'm still writing out the numbers for mine.
Okay. Well, you know what? Our list looks a lot like my list. There's not a lot of differences. I would say the biggest difference is that Queen Metroid moved up a little bit. Proteus Ridley went down a little bit, but yeah. So number 13 for me was Samus from Metroid Prime Federation Force. Number 12, Goria. Number 11, Ridley Robot. Number 10, Omega Metroid. Number 9, Aurora Unit 313. Number 8, Queen Metroid. Number 7, Mother Brain from Nestroid. Number 6, Phantoon. Number 5, Dark Samus. Number 4, Metroid Prime. Number 3, Ravenbeak. Number 2, Mother Brain. And number 1, Proteus Ridley.
All right, and then for me, much like yourself, number 13 is Samus from Federation Force. Then I have a few spaces separating that from 12 to really sell that placement. Number 12, we got Goria from Prime Hunters. Number 11, we got the Omega Metroid from Fusion. 10, we got Robot Ridley. 9, Roar Unit 313. Number 8, Nestroid Motherbrain. 7, Phantoon from Other M. 6, sorry, Andy, Proteus Ridley. Here's the thing. I will say, if we weren't doing a final boss ranking and we were doing just a regular boss ranking, I think Proteus Ridley would actually rank much higher. But in a final boss ranking, But anyways, it is what it is. Number 5, Queen Metroid from Metroid 2. 4, we got Dark Samus from Echoes. Number 3, Metroid Prime from Metroid Prime. Number 2, Mother Brain from Super Metroid. And number 1, Daddy Ravenbeak.
I like it. I like it a lot. You know, we talked about before the podcast too. We were like, should we put in the Queen Metroid from AM2R? So ultimately we didn't. But taking a quick look at my list, Doom, I think that the Queen Metroid from AM2R would be maybe below Metroid Prime, but above Dark Samus. So in the number 5 spot. I think that's kind of where I might slot it if we were to have included it.
I mostly agree. I think I would just edge it above Metroid Prime, but otherwise I think I agree with that. Mm-hmm. But they're both really close fights. I love the AM2R Queen fight a lot.
You know, that fight brings back the music, like from
does.
You listen to that. You listen to and I really like the Queen Metroid fight from Samus Returns. By the way, I think it's a fantastic fight. But man, you had it right there. You had that music. What are we doing? In the entirety of Area 8, actually, like, you had that music. What are you doing?
Yeah. Weird choice that is beyond my understanding.
Yeah, weird. I don't know. I would have done it differently, but and I guess, you know, it's if we really want to go all out here, we also have Metroid Prime from Metroid Prime Pinball, and that's actually kind of a tough fight. It's not as easy as
sorry, Ravenbeak, a new number 1 contender has entered the. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I don't know. I genuinely really like this fight, but also I am probably the number 1 Metroid Prime pinball fan on the planet. But it's also really hard to compare to other Metroid fights because it's like, but I don't know. I don't know where I'd rank it on this list off the top of my head, but I just
I mean, I think it's just its own thing. Like, it's just
and in terms of like what they did with that fight for a pinball game, I am just insanely impressed with, you know, how they were able to translate that into a pinball table and make it work as well as they did.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, there it is. That is our final boss ranking. 4 years later, we have revised our list. And actually, should we spoil something? There's going to be another episode that we're going to be revisiting in the next couple months that we did originally, that we are going to be revisiting, and we're going to call it Doom's version when it comes out. So I don't want to give away too much else other than that, at least right now, but that's coming pretty quick within the next couple, maybe 6 weeks or so, give or take ish.
You know, I'll give a little hint. It's going to drop sometime in November. That's all I'm going to say.
Could probably put together what we're talking about if you really are paying attention. All right, my friends. Well, that is everything. Let us know what you think of our list, and drop your own list into to our Discord. Come and hang out with a bunch of Metroid geeks and talk about this series with us. We'd love to get other opinions and other other just lists and different takes and stuff like that. Yell at Dak or Doom or someone that's not me for not including Emperor Ing and the SAX. So yeah,
we talked about this. You love being the heel. No. Yell at Andy. He loves it.
Yeah, include it in your list if you want to, and don't include it if you don't. It's okay. Do whatever you want. Yeah, let us know over on Discord. Check out our Super Metroid video guide. It's up. It's awesome. It is. It's ready to rock and roll. I was watching it earlier, just kind of eating some popcorn as I was watching our pal Dominique play Super Metroid. So it was pretty cool to see that done. That's over on our YouTube channel, which you should also like and subscribe to, because I mean, we upload full episodes where you can see our beautiful faces every single week as we do these shows. So
Allegedly.
Well, allegedly. You can see Doom's broken leg as he's sitting there writhing in pain doing this podcast. So thanks for sticking that out. All right, we're going to get out of here. Of course, we want to encourage everybody to check us out wherever you're over on social. Give us a follow at Omega Metroid Pod, at Spiteri316, at Doom Lacrosse, and go give Dak a follow too at DakCity_. Check out OmegaMetroid.com. Like we've been plugging lots of guides, but there's a lot more than that too. We've got some news, we've got some links to other stuff, as well as our theme song, Patreon, all that kind of stuff there. So go and check that out. I mean, speaking of Patreon, by the way, we got the Great Metroid Area Ranking rolling along, and we're down to, man, I think we're only down to like 25 areas left. So make sure that you are joining us on our Patreon channel and along for that journey. Patreon.com/SPNet. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Go like, subscribe, recommend, rate, review, all that kind of good stuff. Hey, if you got a Metroid fan in your life, tell them where they can get their weekly Metroid fix. And I think, my friends, that is going to do it for us. So until next week, everybody, we will see you then. Take care.